Hey there, gang. I just want to start off with a quick apology. I had some Wi-Fi troubles while we were recording this audio, and so toward the end of the audio, you're going to hear that the conversation gets mixed up a little bit. In the moments when you lose the audio, you are going to hear this little tone in between the conversation there, and that just lets you know that those are unfortunately the spots that we missed. It was a great fun broadcast, so I do hope you enjoyed, and again, apologies for the missed connections in there on occasion.
Hey there, gang. Patrick King here, and I want to thank you for tuning in for our second season, now what is episode number 24 of Talking About Horses. In these broadcasts, I try to bring you closer to some of the best in the horse industry for tips, insights, and stories. You can listen at home, at work, in the car, or in the saddle, either through Facebook, YouTube, or by downloading the podcast from the iTunes Store or other podcast provider. You can also now access it directly from my website at www.pkhorsemanship.com by clicking the Talking About Horses button under the Education menu. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Canadian horseman Chris Irwin. Chris Irwin's much more than a typical horse trainer. He's a truly gifted communicator, a cutting-edge personal coach, and an advocate for the psychological welfare of horses. Now, after 30 years of wisdom gleaned from his dedication to the well-being of the horse, Chris Irwin's evolutionary approach to horsemanship is becoming mainstream. Horses Don't Lie, Chris's first book, released in 1998, became an instant bestseller in both Canada and the United States, and has now been published in the UK, Holland, Spain, Finland, and the Czech Republic. His latest book, Dancing with Your Dark Horse, published in 2005, is available in Canada, the US, and the UK. Chris has lectured at universities and presented at prestigious horse shows and equine expositions in North America, such as Spruce Meadows, Equine Affair, where I saw him the first time, Equitana, the World and US Pony Club Conferences, and Equine Canada National Conference, the Royal Winter Fair, and Keeneland Race Course. He also appears as a featured clinician at European Horse Expos in Holland and Belgium, an internationally renowned equestrian coach with a focus on training trainers. Chris offers his highly successful Train the Trainer certification program across North America, Holland, and Ireland. Chris, that's a mouthful of an introduction. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's great to be connected. We were chatting a little bit before we got started here, and I had mentioned that I had seen you several years ago presenting at the Equine Affair in Columbus, Ohio, and this is our first chance to get to connect, so I've been really looking forward to this.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, tell us a little bit for the listeners that are out here that might not know who Chris Irwin is, aside from the little introduction that I gave. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of your take maybe on horses and horsemanship?
Well, I didn't expect that question.
Right out of the box, right?
My take on horsemanship. May I approach this from how I got started?
That would be fantastic.
When I got started with horses, some people would say I came to it late. I didn't actually start working in the horse industry till I was 19 years old. I did not grow up in a horse family at all. When I did come to horses, it's kind of cliche, I came from a very dysfunctional family, very violent, substance abuse, emotional abuse family. But I responded to my family situation, my home life, by pursuing scouts and music and sports. I tried to evolve beyond my own family condition by pursuing excellence in different ways. And when I came to the horses at 19, I was already fortunate enough to be a very successful athlete and musician. And those two elements, I approached horses a little differently. I did not approach horses with the mindset that I need to show them who's boss and get the job done. I approached horses as a relationship and an art form. I approached horses the same way I would meet another musician. We're going to get to know each other, we're going to blend, and we're going to make music together. Now that sounds pretty esoteric and touchy-feely, but people say working with horses is a dance. And I also approached horses with this highly trained athletic background, where I learned my primary sport was rowing crew. And what I learned rowing crew is you don't so much try to control the water, you don't so much try to control the waves, you don't try to control the boat. Rowing crew is an extremely challenging sport, and in crew, you adjust to the wind, you adjust to the waves, you adjust to the other oarsmen in the boat. The emphasis to be the best, and you know, as I joked about before we started this conversation, Patrick, yeah, I have an ego, we all have an ego. As a young man, I wanted to compete, and I wanted to win, to prove myself. But I was trained from a very young age. By the time I was 14 years old, I had really good coaches training me that to excel at sport is not to try and dominate the sport, but to adjust to the sport. So what I'm getting at here, for your listeners, there's only two sports in the Olympics where men and women compete against each other. And this is critical. Because people still, so much in the horse industry, it's about, I hate to say it, but it's still about you got to dominate them and show them who's boss. Even women are doing that. So even natural horsemanship is doing this. Right. I'll be real about it. Yep. Even in natural horsemanship, people are still getting aggressive to the head of a horse. You got to jerk them around and show them who's boss. But a sailor does not try to control the wind or the waves. A sailor controls his or her boat by adjusting, by responding to the wind and the waves. You give up control to gain control. A sailor, that sounds pretty esoteric, and yes, get into the mechanics of it. A sailor, no sailor just stands on the end of the boat using force and aggression to try and control the wind or the waves. The sailor reads the wind, reads the waves, and keeps responding, keeps adjusting the boat. So here's what I'm getting at. I was conditioned from my sports, I was conditioned from music, I was conditioned from scouting, that I am not going to go into a situation and try and conquer it or control it. I work with natural forces. You blend with them. And a sailor can control the boat by adjusting to the wind and the waves. Now, to get even closer to horsemanship, intuitively, I sensed this right from the beginning as a young man. I heard people saying, we need to desensitize horses. That's such a cliche in horsemanship. You need to desensitize the horse. And I hear that and I go, you got to be kidding me. I want my horse sensitive.
Exactly.
I'm surgeon. I don't want a dull knife. I don't want a butter knife. I want a scalpel. I want my horse so incredibly responsive that if I blink, it's aware of it. That if my heartbeat changes, it's aware of it. That if my weight shifts even subtly, it's aware of it and it responds to it. So I'm kind of rambling on here, but when I got into horses, my definition of horsemanship, since you've asked, is this: that we don't control horses, we control our responses to horses. That we don't desensitize horses, we sensitize people to the authentic needs of the horse. Like sailing, we don't try to control the mind of the horse or the body of the horse. We don't try to control the wind or the waves. We respond. We change ourselves in order to control the horse. And the horses pick up on this so fast. I'll say this, I am the extreme control freak. But the horse knows my control agenda is responding to it to give it what it needs. I'm not dominating it. I'm blending with it and enhancing it. it sounds like that, and you have to go in, okay, Chris, practically, how do you do that?
Right.
But the first thing I have to, in response to your opening question, is what is your intention? What is the ethos here? My ethos is not to dominate and control horses and make them do circus tricks. My intention is to understand them so deeply and to respond to them so well that they genuinely look me right in the eye and go, wow, you get me. And so I will willingly give myself to you. Pregnant pause. Patrick, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, that's great. That was something sorry about that. That was something to chew on there for a minute. And that is, I think that's an important thing for people to think about. We want to be that person that the horse can look at and offer themselves to. I think if I'm understanding you correctly, that would be my paraphrasing of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's cliche to say you need to be the leader, but there are people listening to this that understand the philosophy of servant leadership.
Yes.
It's a model of shepherding. It's so cliche to say that horse is a prey animal. Well, if the horse is a prey animal, then you're saying it's a cousin to the sheep. It's a cousin to the deer. And if that creature is in fact a prey animal, it has a vulnerability to it. So what I'm emphasizing here is, if I'm a vulnerable creature, if I'm an at-risk child, if I'm at all vulnerable to bring out the best in my potential, is not to dominate and control me, it's to empower me. Again, this is all esoteric, but there are practical applications. What is the distinction between assertive and aggressive? How do you be the boss that is the good cop? Practically, biomechanically, with your legs, with your reins, with all your tools, with all your groundwork, and with all your riding skills, how does the horse know, really, truly, that you're a good cop, actually bringing out and enhancing its well-being? Not just dominating it, but truly leading it and empowering it. So that's my definition. I'll give you a real quick soundbite. It's this. Ask not what your horse can do for you. Ask what you can do for your horse. If they know that you're genuinely interested in enhancing their well-being, then they dig deeper to give themselves to you. They don't resist that.
Yeah, well, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that, the assertive versus aggressive. And I liked the way that you said it earlier about the domination versus the blending. And, you know, the way that you said it, how do we as riders, as handlers, show our horses that that's what we're after, that we're after the blending, that we're after the assertive, not the aggressive?
Great. Well, now we get into the science of it.
Yeah, and that's where I'm a total nerd when it comes to things like this, and I know from comments that I've gotten from a lot of our listeners, a lot of our listeners out here are kind of nerdy about the deeper philosophy of these things. So yeah, so let's dig a little deeper.
Well, the philosophy, the psychology, the ethos is more or less referred to as the soft science. The hard science are the biomechanics and the physiology. So now we go into, how does your horse genuinely know? So the title of our next chapter in the conversation would therefore be frame of body equals frame of mind. So I'm gonna just rattle off a bunch of cliches that everyone's heard. I don't think we've ever physically met, Patrick, but you and I have just talked over the phone here, and I'd feel comfortable saying to your listeners that Patrick's a pretty level-headed guy. But everyone's heard that, level-headed.
Yeah.
But in fact, I haven't seen your head, Patrick, but I would venture to guess it's oval-shaped.
Right.
Just like mine and just like everybody listening to this. So where in the world did the saying level-headed come from? It comes from the horses. So the following sayings. And these are all behavior. When I say someone's level-headed, we all know that means that person is reasonably self-assured, confident, non-threatening, easygoing, even-keeled, pardon the mixed metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
But that comes from the horses. A level-headed horse is when its poll, the space between its ears, is traveling level with the peak of its withers. Mm-hmm. So that horizontal spine is traveling reasonably level. And what our ancestors saw is that a level-headed horse was easygoing. It wasn't passive, it wasn't aggressive, it wasn't lazy, it wasn't hyper. It was pretty easygoing. So they called it for what it is. Literally, what you see is what you get. A level-headed horse. Mm. Now listen to all these things. Bent out of shape, nose out of joint, getting off on the wrong foot, well-rounded, calm and collected. This is getting out of hand. All of these types of expressions, stuck up. All of these expressions. Our ancestors came up with this expression. You're getting worked up. You need to calm down. Now, that does not mean literally that a human being is climbing the walls and they need to get down on the floor.
Right.
All of these expressions are the body language of horses. So, here's what I'm getting at. Imagine a horse just standing there calm and relaxed. Everything is fine. Now, we all know, everybody listening to this has enough horse experience to know that if a horse lays its ears flat back on its head, like lays them right down flat back, that it's angry. We all know that. So you could walk up to a horse, anyone listening to this, you can walk up to a horse tomorrow, and its ears can be nice and relaxed and floppy off to the side. If you go up and you take your hands and you lay those ears down, if you physically manipulate those ears to lay down, within about 10 seconds, that horse will genuinely feel angry. So there's no disconnect. The body is the mind. Now, the beauty of that is that you shape the body to affect the mind. So it gets this, here's an oversimplistic definition of this. Just about every horse trainer worth their salt knows if you want a horse to relax, you need to head down low. Mm-hmm. A horse who's worked up with a high head, with a hollow back, calm them down, literally, not metaphorically, by getting her head down. When a horse has a hollow back, the back looks like a hammock. If the spinal column is hollowed out and the head is up with pinched vertebrae and a hollow back, physiologically there's going to be adrenaline going to the brain. Mm-hmm. So there are different shapes. A stuck-up horse with a hollow back is full of adrenaline. A long and low horse with its nose on the ground is full of endorphins. A level-headed horse is pretty much neutral. No adrenaline, no endorphins. Up and round, truly, traditionally collected horse, a classically collected horse, a well-rounded horse, its spinal column is producing endorphins. So it comes down to this. How your horse behaves is subject to how it feels. Mm-hmm. How it feels is subject to the shape of its body. The shape of its body, specifically its spinal column and its vertebrae, its central nervous system creates a physiology that affects behavior. That spinal column, that shape of the horse, is at the effect of the environment and the human being. So I can be training a horse, and while I'm not even training, just being with it, putting a halter on it. Here's one. Putting a halter or a bridle on a horse. Everybody listening to this, imagine this. You've seen this. Everybody hearing this podcast has seen this with their own eyes. Somebody's putting a bridle on a horse, and the horse is a little resistant, and the head goes up and turns away. The person just keeps reaching for that. So now, in fact, the person reaching for the head that goes up and away is seen by the horse as pushing the head up and away. And that causes the spinal column to produce adrenaline to the brain. So when you add all what the horse experiences, that when this human being puts the bridle on me, I feel bad. Now, if the person knew how to get it so that the opposite was happening, that the spine is stretching long and low and bending to put the bridle on, then the horse gets endorphin flow. And the cliche saying here, the conditioned response is that when you put the bridle on me, I feel really good. Or when you put the bridle on me, I feel full of anxiety. Whether a horse enjoys or doesn't a process of anything, bridling, mounting, grooming, cantering, loping, jumping, loading in the trailer, picking up its feet, any of this, how the horse feels about the experience will affect its behavior. But how the horse feels about the experience depends upon the shape of its spinal column. And its spinal column depends upon the shape of the human being working with it. Frame of body creates frame of mind. So we need to look at this as this blend of art and science, where the science is the biomechanics and the physiology. I need to blend both my ethos, that I want to be the best that I can be for the horse so that it's a willing partner who wants to be with me. But in order for that to realistically happen, it has to feel good in the process. And in order for it to feel good in the process, its body must maximize endorphins and oxytocin, not adrenaline and cortisol. So there is I refer to this often as the physics to the metaphysics.
There you go.
It's full of the physics of the metaphysics. We've got bullies who are still using aggression, and then the pendulum swings the other way, and we've got a bunch of metaphysical, new age, natural horsemanship people who just want their horse to be their best friend, but they don't necessarily know the science to actually make that happen.
Right.
So you know how biomechanics affect physiology, affect biochemistry, that affects behavior.
Well, and it's just that easy.
Simple, not deep. But I'm gonna get. I don't mean this to be crass, but we are all at the effect of our chemistry.
Sure,
Men
of course.
know it, women know it. We're teenagers know it. We're at the effect of our own chemistry. So let me make a really blunt but authentic statement to all the listeners. Do you truly understand, so that you can work with, not against, how biochemistry is affecting your horse? The lady, I'm gonna get really tough here. The majority of the people listening to this are ladies.
Yes.
They're women, let's be honest. The vast majority of my clients and the vast majority of clients in the horse industry are women. And they want to nurture their horse, but they need to control their horse. So it's this. Ladies, if you want to nurture your horse, honestly, here's the next cliche. The road to hell can be paved with good intentions. Here's a big one. Here's a really big one that everyone can relate to. Visualize a child loving a kitten. The child, in their mind, boy or girl, the intention is to love the kitten. The child's mind and the child's heart are both on board. I want to love the kitten. But the body language mechanics are causing stress. The kitten is not loving the loving. So the kitten scratches the child, bites the child drops the kitten, the child is crying because I wanted to love the kitten, but the kitten doesn't love me and scratch me and hurt me. And the adult looking at this knows it's not a bad kitten. Right. I need to teach this child a more appropriate way to show the love with your body language. Stop mauling and actually know how to love the child. I love the kitten. Now, as harsh as this sounds, in an esoteric nutshell, the problems people have with horses when we're having problems, and the problems can be fight, flight, or shut down. Stress causes anger, it causes fear, it causes just shutting down. Those are the cliche truth. If your horse is either angry or frightened or shutting down, it's not loving you're loving. It is a kitten being exposed to good intentions without enough information to truly know how to use your body.
Mm-hmm.
So the horse industry, everybody listening to this has good intentions. But do you know the physics or the metaphysics? Do you know how your body's biomechanics affect the biomechanics of your horse that affects its physiology, its biochemistry, that results in its behavior? I'm a good horse because I appreciate how you make me feel as your body moves my body through time and space. That's it.
Yeah.
Practically, how do you do that? There's a lot. There's a lot. I'll give you the clearest, simplest one right now. Your hands on the ropes and the reins. Think of a right rein or a lead rope on the right side. You're on the right side of your horse on the ground, or you're riding and we're talking about the right rein. Either way, that right rein or rope attached to the head of a horse. You've got three choices with that rope or that rein. Three. Pull it in the direction you want. A right rein can pull to the right. Or a right rein can just be dangling in space, slack, and doing nothing. Or a right rein can be used as a boundary, as a block, to not go left. Those are three fundamental differences.
Mm-hmm.
What's your right hand doing? Is it pulling right? Is it doing nothing? Or is it blocking left? Now, the horses, from what I've learned and what I've proven, the horses prefer that a right hand blocks left. So now here we go. Everybody listening to this, imagine, because you've all seen it, we've all seen a stock shoot. We've all seen horses, cows, sheep moving through two narrow parallel fences. Mm-hmm. Nothing pulls their face. But if their neck and head were to try and turn left, there'd be a fence on the left side that blocks that, just blocks it.
Right.
So when a horse or a sheep or a cow or any kind of prey animal, llama, goes through a chute system, it is going forward between two narrowly defined boundaries. Nothing pulls on it at all. So the biggest contradiction in the horse industry is when the right hand pulls right. The right hand used as a boundary to not go left. If the right rein just holds and a horse tries to turn left when you don't want it to, and it bumps into a blocking hand, that is fundamentally opposite to a right hand pulling right. It's a completely different energy. Pulling right is not the same as disallowing left.
Right.
When a horse is tied to a fence post, the post doesn't pull on it. A lot of your listeners have done their homework. They've looked in the books from the old days and they've seen illustrations. They've seen illustrations like from back, for instance, in the Vienna riding school, the really old days. And a horse would be tied between two posts with cross ties. Mm-hmm. And there'd be a trainer back behind the post with a whip telling it to go forward into those ties. The posts didn't pull.
Right.
If the horse tried to turn its neck and head right, it bumped into a static block. If the horse tried to turn left, it bumped into a static block. So from everything we've talked about, let me add all of these concepts together. Your horse will not feel good in its body if you use your right rein to pull right. If you use your right rein to pull right, you're going to throw it off balance, no matter what anyone says. If you're using the right rein to, quote, initiate flexion is a lot of fancy terms for pull his face or her face to the right. Don't use the right rein to pull right. Use it to make a fence on the left side that blocks unwanted left. It's kind of like your horse is a river that needs to flow between riverbanks. Riverbanks don't pull on it. Stock chutes don't pull on it. And I'm glad to hear you go, yeah, because here's what it is, Patrick. The horse industry is kind of dysfunctional. We're like politics. We say one thing and we do another. Every discipline in the horse industry says you're not supposed to pull on the face, you're supposed to ride with your feet and legs, but we have an industry full of people teaching people to pull on the face.
Right.
We say one thing and we do another. Whereas the physics of this is you must channel them between boundaries, like a river between riverbanks, like a bobsled or a luge in that chute. When we move horses forward through parallel boundaries between our legs and reins without pulling on them, then they slow and their spine relaxes and they feel good. But when we start pulling on their face, it throws them off balance, it causes adrenaline, and they don't feel good. Hence, this time-old tradition of you're not supposed to pull on them. So let me ask people a simple question. Are you pulling on your horse's face or not? There's no maybe. There's no gray zone.
Right. It's binary. You either are or you aren't.
Even so much as tipping the nose to the right. They don't want that. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no. I said you're right. It's binary. You either are or you are not.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like Yoda. There is no try. Do or do not.
Yes, right.
Don't try to be better horse people. Just don't stop pulling on them and channel them between parallel boundaries.
Right. I love that you used the analogy of the river. That's something that I mention constantly with my students, is that the aids are to be like the banks of the river. The river flows between the banks. The river isn't pushed or pulled by the banks. So that's great to hear you use the similar analogy.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, very cool. So let's talk a little bit about the sensitivity of the horse. We said at the beginning we don't want to desensitize, and again, that's something I'm kind of glad to hear you say as well. There are things the horse has to learn to become accustomed to, but that's very different than desensitizing. We want to keep the horse sensitive. We want to keep him lively. Where do we find there's a challenge? I feel like I do see this quite often with the rider's maybe self-awareness or ability to channel then that sensitivity.
Oh, I like that you just said the awareness, because that's fundamental.
Yeah.
This next conversation here is a really nice balance between, shall I say, the ethos, the esoteric, the philosophical, and the practical. Of all the skills that we need to train a horse, you need to be dominant. You do need to be the boss. Absolutely, you must be respected. But how do you respect it? In the land of dogs, in the land of predators, an oversimplification is this: bigger muscles win. So I'm often joking, the horse world is full of Jack Russell Terriers, and they are tough little dogs.
Yeah.
Tough little dogs. But I have an Akita, and if someone's little Jack Russell comes up annoying my Akita has a bigger body, is just as fierce, and will put that Jack Russell in this place. In the land of predators, typically 98% of the time, there are anomalies. Every now and then you get a middleweight boxer who can win a heavyweight fight. But in general, when it comes to confrontational, meet force with force, the bigger gun wins. Which country has the most nuclear weapons makes the rules. That's just a fact. But in the language of prey animals, in the language of horses, everything shifts. All of your listeners know this. In the language of horses, we have often seen that a little horse can rule the herd. It's pretty funny when you watch a mini horse or a pony and it's ruling warm bloods and thoroughbreds.
Yes.
Horses 3 to 4, 5 times their size, and the little horses are running the herd. So right off, that was the first thing that intrigued me as a young man, because I'd never seen that. In the human condition, the bigger muscles and the bigger guns win.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're in the horse world and you go, well, these ponies and these minis, These smaller horses, they think they've got something. So what is it? And when you ask that question, the shallow answer is, well, they've got attitude. No, that's not it. So the Jack Russell Terrier has attitude, and my Akita puts its attitude in its place.
Right.
No, it's not attitude. It's more than attitude. There's something else that's going on there. And I observed this. I had that question as a young man, and I observed it, and I watched, and I watched, and I watched, and I found it. And it's this. And it only makes sense when you hear this. We're all a herd of horses, and we know that we're flight or fight in terms of our survival. What good is it for a thoroughbred to know he or she can run 40 miles an hour, right from 0 to 40 instantly, unless it knows the need to flight? You have to be aware of the need for flight. So what horses, their number one life skill is their environmental awareness, their situational awareness. So here's what I'm getting at. All of your listeners have seen this scenario play out. Everything in the herd is calm. They're all just hanging out, eating the grass. And then all of a sudden, for no seemingly no reason, one of the more dominant horses just pins its ears and runs over and bites or kicks somebody. And from our perspective, we look at that and go, you know, what an idiot, what a bully, what a bitch. Like why would they do that? There was a reason.
Right.
And the reason was, as subtle as it can happen, that horse actually challenged them a little wee bit. Here's a little wee challenge. I bent my ribs in your direction. My girth line crossed your girth line. I faced your face and I flipped my nose up in the air. I gave you a little disrespect. And you see that, and you respond by coming to push me away for that disrespect. I'm actually appreciative because I know you're paying attention. So why do I need that? It doesn't do me much good to be able to run fast if I didn't see that lion over there in the bushes. So the number one life skill that a horse is looking for in its leader is you need to be more aware of what the hell is going on around me than I am. Why else would I need you? Who rings the alarm bell first? Who pulled the fire bell first is the leader. It's the one with the most situational awareness. Another way to put this into context is this. And this is why, I'm going to segue now, this is why it is possible that working with horses can lend itself to human personal development. It can be. It's not this touchy-feely metaphor stuff. It's not. It can be very authentically real. And here's why. Imagine a bunch of soldiers. We've been in battle all day. We are vulnerable. We're out there fighting a good fight, and we're vulnerable. We're horses. We're prey. And we desperately need to sleep. I need to sleep. You need to sleep. Question is, Patrick, can you and I trust unequivocally the person on guard?
Right.
Can you trust the person on guard that they will see the predator coming? They will see the enemy coming. They will wake you up, and we will either have flight or fight. But we won't be caught as victims.
Right.
That's what horse is looking for. And this sounds so far out there, but the number one skill to master with horses is to be with them, and in every single moment to be so profoundly aware of what their body is saying in terms of passive or slightly aggressive gestures, and that you respond appropriately. Now, this is going to tie in, this situational awareness ties back into my opening statement about the difference is in the Olympics only men and women only compete against each other in equestrian and sailing. I don't need to control the environment. I just need to be aware of what the hell is actually happening and proactively respond to it. I might not need to fight the enemy, but I need to wake up and know that I'm outnumbered and get the hell out of there. It's situational awareness. Am I equipped to fight this fight? I will pick my battle. Am I aware? So what the little horses have that so often then allows them to rule the herd is the other horses tested their moment-to-moment awareness, and these little horses said, hey, I see that. If you do that, here's my response. And so here's the way people have seen this play out. We've all seen it. Two horses meet for the first time. And typically, most of the time, they'll meet, they'll go nose to nose, they'll round out their bodies, they'll round out their necks, they'll be sniffing each other nostril to nostril, and we all know what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, one of them will suddenly squeal and maybe strike on the forehand.
Yes.
That's pretty much, not always, but the majority of the time. At least 6, 7 out of 10 times, if two horses meet, they go nose to nose, they smell each other, they inhale each other, they're round to each other. The frame of body is round to each other. That's a signal. Mm-hmm. And then one of them suddenly strikes and drives the other one away. Now, when we look at that, we think, oh, the one who struck is the more aggressive one. That's not true. The one who squealed and struck on the forehand was defensive because it saw the other one beginning to come out of the roundness. The mutual roundness, when the necks round and those necks arch like rainbows and they go nose to nose, that's mutual respect. That's the signal of mutual respect. That is the chemistry that we're both full of power, but we're calm with our power. We have a round spine producing endorphins while we have all this athletic ability. But in a moment, in a micro moment, one of them starts to come out of the roundness and starts the first signal. I'm going to hollow my back and invert and lift my nose up in a hollow frame. And as soon as that starts to happen, that horse is shifting from mutual respect into aggression, into a flight or fight posture. And then the other one says, get the hell away from me with that. But people don't see it. It's Patrick, to work with horses really well, it's almost like we need to be more autistic, less filter. We need to see what's really happening. Mm-hmm. And so that we learn how to align to that. If you can really see, truly read a horse, read the ears, read the tail, read the top line, read the bend, read which forehand. If you go to the right side of a horse on its body and you ask it to turn right, it's not good enough that it turned right. How did it turn right? You can walk to the right side of a horse's body and expect it to turn and face you. Did it turn and face you by swinging its hindquarters out and leveling its spine and maybe giving you a bow to the head? Or did it turn to face you stepping into you with an inverted spine with the front end turning in? Does it do a turn on the forehand, swinging the body away with you bowing its head low? Or does it do a turn on the haunches, pushing its shoulder into you with its head up high? One horse is saying, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, with all due respect. The other horse is saying, screw you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to push you. And people don't see the difference. And you have to see the difference and know how to respond appropriately so that the horse goes, wow, it all ties together. You're aware of what I did. I'm aware of how you responded. I'm aware that when you responded, you framed my body in such a way that when I disrespect you, I'm going to tie the ultimate Ray Hunt natural horsemanship cliche into this. With your awareness, you must respond in the moment to the most subtle nuances of challenges and respond in such a way that the right thing is easy and the wrong thing is difficult. And what that translates into is when I challenge you, I don't feel good in my own biochemistry, but when I acquiesce to you, when I say yes to you, I feel really good. Being a good horse feels good. Being a bad horse doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the right thing is easy and the wrong thing is difficult.
Right, right. Well, Well, and that makes perfect
But
sense.
again,
The idea of tension and fight and things like that. To me, I think it doesn't really matter what the body is, if it's a horse or a person or a camel or a dog or an octopus. No body wants to exist in a state of tension or anxiety. It wants to do the right things and feel well.
yeah, and if I don't imagine anyone listening to this is lacking in empathy, but there's still some old school trainers. I run into this a lot, for instance, in some disciplines and still at the track. You'll still hear trainers say, I don't need my horse to feel good. I don't need my horse to be relaxed. My horse, a little edge is good for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say to that, pardon my language, I have to say that bullshit.
Right.
Every athlete in the Olympics has 3 coaches. Once you make it to the Olympics, you have 3 coaches. There's the coach who coaches you through the mechanics of your sport. And then you have a nutritionist to make sure you're maximizing your physical health. But really, when it comes to, say, the top 10 in any discipline in the Olympics, whether you win or lose is the psychology. It's your sport psychologist. Don't choke. Anyone in the top 10 could win the gold medal. It's not about your physical ability anymore. It's about your psychological ability. Can you go to the Olympics? Appreciate this. Everybody listening to this, because this is a horse. This is when someone goes to the Olympics, they have all this incredible talent and discipline and dedication, but they're vulnerable. The whole world is watching them, and it comes down to this moment, and they've got the weight of their country watching them. Do they psychologically choke? Any athlete, and then again, before I came to the horses, I was a highly successful athlete, and what I learned is it's not just your body mechanics. I can be in better physical condition than my competitor, and I can do my sport better than my competitor, but if I choke psychologically, then my competitor can win. And they found this in horses. There was a report not that long ago, a few years ago, where they studied all the data from thoroughbred racing and the breeding of thoroughbred horses since the mid-1800s. The breeding has only improved speed by less than 10%.
Wow.
In terms of nature, nurture, DNA, yeah. It's not who has, this happens all the time in thoroughbred racing. When the $5,000 horse beats the $5 million horse. It's not genetics. It's not the physical ability of the horse. It's the psychological ability of the horse. It was the trainer, not the breeding. Mm-hmm. Who can bring out the best in that horse's mind is going to win. Right. I once went to a first level dressage test. My wife rode a horse that I started. It was a wild Mustang with 20 rides on it, and she won the dressage show on it. And it pissed all the competitors off, because they were all riding high-dollar warm bloods, and she shows up with a wild Mustang and wins. But the fact is, he was more relaxed. He was more gymnastic. He was more elastic. He had more throughness. He had more swing, because his mind was at ease. Right.
Absolutely. The breeding definitely has a part of it, but when it comes down to it, you can have two that are equally matched, and the one with the better psychology will win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say the one with the better psychology can overcome deficient genetics.
Sure.
Yeah. It's kind of, I'm digressing here, but I've been in this game a long time, and people used to ask me about the movie The Horse Whisperer. Not everyone's going to get this, but I say, if you really want to understand what horses are all about, it's not the movie The Horse Whisperer, it's the movie Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of horses. All this gifted genius that is stressed out and confused and angry and resentful. And someone's got to channel all that to optimize it, to maximize the potential. Right. And that's more psychology than it is muscle.
Right. Absolutely. That's interesting. There's a movie that I make reference to quite often. You may have seen it. It's The Peaceful Warrior. It was a book as well, play on a true story by a man named Dan Millman, who was an Olympic gymnast. It was basically, he was... I'm sorry?
Yeah, he was on the trampoline. I read the book when I was a kid.
Okay.
I love that you bring that up, because Dan Millman's The Way of the Peaceful Warrior was a formative book when I was a teenager.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I
actually, the horses don't lie off that book.
Really? Wow. Wow. That's great. Well, and I always say that movie has more to do with horsemanship than it does anything else, but it's that state of mind. It's the psychology.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So it really comes down to a lot of it. We need to be present, aware, and responsive.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. I refer to horses as, and it's tragic that I have to say this these days because it's been bastardized, but it's a martial art. Mm-hmm. Not like mixed martial arts where you just have two goons in a cage trying to beat each other to a pulp. I'm talking about a martial art in the truest sense of its origins. Like, I'm of age, I don't know how old you are, Patrick. Do you happen to remember the show Kung Fu?
I do not. No.
With David Nerdy? Some of your listeners might. The whole concept of Kung Fu originally was Shaolin Buddhist priests. And it was this. It's to be the good cop. The original intention of Kung Fu is, I will never hurt you, but you can't hurt me. Mm. And to be able to approach horses as such a good cop that they can see in how you respond to them. I will never bully you, but yeah, you don't bully me either. And to find that real fine way of the peaceful warrior is the good cop who says, I'm here to protect and serve. Because this is all audio, not visual. If it's visual, if we were doing this on television, I'd say, look at this. Here's a mechanical concept I can illustrate that you can see with your eyes. But we're on radio and it's all audio, so it's just food for thought in the mind. But here's one for people to hear. A horse in a box stall. One horse in a stall is pacing and weaving and pawing and is so stressed. That horse's reality is, I am a victim locked in jail. We've all seen that. But we've also all seen a horse sleeping in the stall. And we've also, most of us have seen a mare in a foaling stall quite happy to have this space to deliver her foal. An insight for me was, early on in my youth, was, well, wait a minute, something's going on here. My mare has a foal, and when I come up to my mare with her foal, there's no stress in her. She has no problem with me being there and loving on her foal and loving on her. But when the other horses come around the foal, she pins her ears and drives them away. Logic says, and this is one of the first things that got me as a young man, how come my mare trusts me with her baby and doesn't trust other horses with her baby? Wow, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't ignore that. How come one horse in the stall is pacing full of stress, but another horse in the stall is sleeping? Here's the distinction. The horse pacing in the stall, the walls have locked me in and I'm full of stress and I want out. The horse who's sleeping in the stalls, this isn't jail, this is sanctuary. Yeah. I can sleep because no wolves or coyotes or lions are going to get to me. So one horse looks at the walls as prison holding it in. Another horse looks at the walls as sanctuary, keeping all the bad things out. How does your horse view you? My horses view me as the sanctuary. When they're with me, I'm the box that protects them, not the box that enslaves them. So it's so cliche to talk about, quote unquote, boundaries. Walls are boundaries. Are your boundaries enslaving a stressed horse, keeping it in jail, or are your boundaries sanctuary that protects the horse? Does your horse say, I will walk through the valley of evil. I will walk through the valley of evil because I have no choice or you will beat the hell out of me? Or does your horse walk through the valley of evil and fear no death because you're with them? Like, which is it? Mm-hmm. Are we bullying them into doing what we want, or are we developing confidence in us? And so these are all these esoteric concepts, but what's your intention? What are you really going to these horses wanting them to do? Right. You want them to just do what you want them to do because you want performance, you want behavior, you want circus tricks. Or are you going to them, proving to them, my body responds to your body. I will sail your boat in such a way that you feel good, and therefore you appreciate this. That's the overwhelming theme of all of this. I keep coming back to the original question, what is a real horse person? What is a real equestrian? Those who serve the horse and facilitate its well-being. It's servant leadership. I'm going to be the boss, and you're going to love me for it.
This reminds me of a quote a friend of mine, Tom Curtin, I heard him say it, and I probably beat it up and ran it through the mud. But from what I remember of what he said, the line is something to the effect of, it doesn't matter what I think of your horsemanship, and it really doesn't even matter what you think of your horsemanship. The most important part is how your horse feels about himself when he's with you.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's well said. Who said that?
Tom Curtin.
I've never heard of him, but that's about as wise as it gets.
Yeah, he travels around teaching clinics quite a bit. He was heavily influenced by Ray Hunt as well. Fantastic horseman, great clinician, great guy. But awesome. So I really like that, and I keep coming back to this idea that we have to be not only present, but we have to be present and aware, and that's not good enough. We have to also be responsive, because as you said, if there's danger there, if there's a challenge there, it doesn't matter if we're aware of it or not if we don't do anything about it, right? And so we show the horse that we are there to blend as the leader rather than dominate by being present, aware, and responsive.
Yeah. And the trick in all of it, everything we're talking about, Patrick, is intention. It's ethos. It's philosophy. Mm-hmm. Key word is, when you respond, how are you responding? Are you using the right rein to pull right or block left? Are you aware of facilitating a spine that's inducing endorphins and oxytocin, or are you creating a spine that creates adrenaline? Now we get into the biomechanics. Yeah, so that's the lifelong journey. That's the physics of the metaphysics. That's the science of our psycho-spiritual empathetic intention. How are you actually achieving this? It's a great intention, but again, the child intends to love the kid, and the kid does not love him or love it.
Right.
So we can have a room full of well-meaning people that all agree that we want our horses to feel good about how we're leading them. But how do you do that? That's the mechanics. And the mechanics, we can't actually get into too much definitions, just words in an interview. It's a visual language. It's body language. It's the science of sign language. Definitely.
Right. Well, this gives folks, I think, a great starting point. And yeah, it's how are we presenting that? How are we going about it? So, and it goes back to your analogy about the horses in the stalls. How is he perceiving our walls?
Yeah, exactly. Here's one in terms of just a little hint for your listeners. For your listeners, I'm going to ask listeners a little guided visualization here. Close your eyes and imagine you're riding a horse in some arena or along some fence. And you're coming into a corner. You're riding into a corner, and you're about to turn in the corner. But the question is, ask yourself this: is the horse's nose in the direction of the turn, or is it a little, quote, counterflex looking out of the turn? Just ask that question. Now, and you haven't affected it yet. You haven't decided to fix or make anything happen yet. 99 times out of 100, maybe 95 times out of 100, if we just let things be what they are, and you ride a horse along a wall in an outdoor arena, an indoor arena, you ride it along a wall into a corner, along a fence, into a 90-degree corner. When you get to the corner, 95 out of 100 times the horse is, quote, looking out. It's counterflex, it's counterbent. Some people say it's dropping its shoulder in, whatever.
Right.
But its body is arcing out of the corner, pushing into the arena. Now, I would think just about everybody hearing this knows what I'm talking about. Question is, how do you respond? How do you respond? What's going to happen right now? Now, everybody hear this. The number one is, let's say we're going into the corner, it's a right turn. We're going into a corner, it's a right turn, but the horse is looking a little left, it's counterbent, it's counterflex, it's looking into the corner, it's looking out. And here's what everyone's heard over and over again, ad nauseum. You've got to respect your inside leg, meaning the right leg in a right turn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping people can follow this without seeing it. You got to visualize this. So what that means is people start kicking against its guts, kicking against the ribs. And a lot of people, no matter how much they love their horse, at this point, if they're trying to make the right turn, but the horse is looking left, quote unquote, dropping its shoulder in, and they're looking at this as a big defined issue, and they're kicking with the right leg, and a lot of people even start pulling on the right rein because it's supposed to, quote unquote, turn right without dropping its shoulder, blah, 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 blah. Now, back it all up. The intention is that during a right turn, it would be best for all kinds of mechanical reasons, biomechanical reasons, anatomical reasons, it would be best, including our control agenda, if the ribs would arc into the corner and the head would face in. It would be nice if in a right turn, the ribs were out to the left and the head was into the right. Instead of during a right turn, the head was out to the left and the ribs into the right. Question is, what do you do about that? And typically what people do about that is kick against the ribs, saying you must respect my, quote, inside leg, and or they start pulling on the face to make the horse look into the turn. So, if we're kicking against the ribs and pulling on the face, we've contradicted everything we all talk about. You're not supposed to be a bully, you're not supposed to kick them, and you're not supposed to pull them. It's supposed to be a dance, it's supposed to be a partnership, but I don't kick and jerk on my partner. So, what are you doing? Now, let's go back to we're going into the corner and it's happening. My horse is looking out. It's counterflexing left. Its nose is looking into the wall. Its shoulders, quote unquote, dropping into the turn. Now, just hold that in your mind, everybody, and ask yourself this question. Which is really my inside leg? Really? Are you defining the inside leg as the right leg because that's the inside of the arena? Or are you identifying the inside leg as the spine of your horse's body? Here's the change that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. Inside and outside aids must be defined as the flexion in your horse's spine, not the arena.
Right.
If I'm going into a corner and I'm turning right, but my horse is looking left, then the left is the inside, not the right. The right is the outside. And newsflash, everybody, without trying to sound like a jerk, the outside leg is not the bending leg.
Right.
It's not. It won't work. So just hear this for a second. This is why so many horses get soured on corners. It's such a cliche problem. All over the world, horses are soured on going into corners because people are turning against their bend. So change the subject. Same subject. I'm going to segue for a second. We've all heard this. Never cut against the grain in carpentry. Don't sand against the grain in carpentry. Don't cut against the grain in meat. If you sand against the grain or cut against the grain with wood, the wood flares up. If you turn a horse right while it's looking left, it will stress its spine and cause a behavior problem. That behavior problem will be rooting on the bit, pulling down, slipping up, not wanting to go into the corner, running through the corner. All kinds of problems are going to come. If we have a horse looking left and we're trying to make it turn right. Now, for those of you who can follow this, the next time you go into a corner, do this tomorrow when you ride your horse. If you're riding it into the corner and it's counterbending, it's counterflexing, you're thinking right turn, but it's looking left, do a left leg yield. Tell it to move over from the leg near the wall. Actually identify what's really the inside according to its spine. And this taps into Ray Hunt's ism. Make the right thing easy, wrong thing difficult. If I ride into a corner and I want to make a right turn and my horse is actually meant to look left, kicking its right side with my right leg, telling it must respect my inside leg, that's not making it difficult. That's biomechanically, physically impossible. A left bend can't turn right. But what I can do is do a left leg yield. Do the gymnastics of, since you're bent left, and the left is actually the inside, but I want to go to the right, I'll do a left leg yield. I'll tell you to move over from my left leg rather than beat the hell out of you to try and turn you from the right rein in the right leg. And when you do that, you're working with the body, you're working with the anatomy, you're working with the physiology, and psychologically, you're telling the horse, I'm pushing you out of the corner, not into it. And as soon as you do that, the horse's body relaxes. And when the body relaxes, then once the spine relaxes, I can promise everyone listening to this, if you're having problems in the corner, I absolutely, unequivocally guarantee you this. Ride the bend you've got. If you're trying to go right with a horse looking left, do a left leg yield. And do it for the next 5 minutes. Go 10 times around the arena, counter leg yielding that counter bend, not fighting to try and turn it. And when you do, the spine will relax so much that then you can actually change the bend. Your legs will be like a hot knife going through butter once that spine is relaxed. The problem is people are kicking against the rib, saying, quote unquote, you must respect my leg. That's caused kicking against the counter bend, kicking with your right leg, saying you must respect it when the horse is actually bent into it, is just force meeting force. It's trying to shove a square peg through a round hole, and it creates even more tension and more resistance. Whereas if you just work with what is the inside and do a leg yield off the leg against the wall, then the spine relaxes. And very quickly, your horses will level out and relax. And when they level out and relax, their spine is pliable, it's elastic, and they'll let you change it. I've proven this for decades. I've made my career on that horse who won't go in the corner, watch this. And 5 minutes later, they're in the corner relaxed. And there's no fight, there's no resistance. So I will give your listeners 2 very practical mechanical insights to back up all this philosophy and this ethos. Don't use your reins to pull the direction you do want, because that's pulling on their face. When was the last time anyone listening to this saw a horse pull a horse on its face? They push each other in the body. The bridle. The reins are not to be used to pull the face the direction you do want. The reins are to be used to create that chute of parallel fences to block the directions you don't want. Right rein doesn't pull right, it blocks left. Left rein doesn't pull left, it blocks right. Use your hands to just hold your horse. That's the same. There's no old cliche that says pull your horse. The old cliche is hold your horse. Hold your horse's neck and head in the center of its body. Don't let it lead any movements with its face. Just hold it there while you're aware of its body and work with the bend, not against it. Here's the 2 things. Don't use your reins to pull the directions you do want. Use the reins to block the directions you don't want. And never turn against the bend. Left bends can't turn left. Left bends can't turn right. A left bend can turn left or left leg yield to the right. A right bend can turn right or right leg yield to the left. But a left bend can't turn right, and a right bend can't turn left. So stop trying to kick and pull horses to change bends. If you work with the bend you've got, if you sail the boat instead of trying to control the wind and the waves, the horses relax, and then they will let you. The fastest way to get a horse to bend around your real inside leg when you go into a corner is to stop trying to make them bend around it. Stop trying to kick them. Just work with the bend you've got. They'll relax, and then they'll give you the bend you want.
There you go. Soften the body in the position it is, and you get it into the position you want.
That's it. Very good, Patrick. I like the way you said that. Soften what you've got, then you'll get what you want. Yeah.
There you go. And it's just that easy, right?
It is. It is. The profound thing about this sport is it's ridiculously simple, but it's not easy.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Because it's counterintuitive. It's not. It is the single greatest oxymoron in all horsemanship is natural horsemanship. There's nothing natural about this.
Right.
They don't naturally want us on their backs, and we don't naturally know how to steer them. This is not natural. This is so unbelievably counterintuitive and unnatural. It's an odyssey in learning how to become who horses need us to be. It is not natural. That's why so many horses have so many issues. We need to learn how to be who they need us to be and stop trying to make them into who we want them to be.
Yeah. Boy, well said. Well said.
If you like these little things, here's a fun one, just so we can lighten up for a minute. The very nature of the horse is a passive-aggressive, paranoid attention deficit victim waiting to happen. That's the nature of the horse. Yeah. The nature of the human being is a romantic control freak in denial. Put them together. Yeah, I'm serious. It's fun, but it's serious. A romantic control freak in denial. We're romantic. I love horses. It's nature. It's romantic. It is. Cowboys are romantic. They're into costume and imagery and history and tradition. It's romantic.
Yep.
So we're control freaks, and what we're in denial of is, why should the horses want to do this with us? Why should they?
Right.
Really?
Right.
Why should they? Why would a horse look at you just because you dressed up in an English or Western costume and you want to play the game? Why should they give themselves to us? I mean, really?
Right.
So human beings are innately romantic control freaks in denial. I've decided I want to be a horse. Now where everybody wants to be their own horse trainer. So get real about what that is. Get very real about what it is to be a horse trainer. To be the horse trainer is to take a paranoid attention deficit victim and lead their vulnerability into the unknown and empower them into confidence, focus, willingness. To be a horse trainer is to transform vulnerability into confidence. And you don't do that by bullying or bribing with cookies. You do that with true physiological, psychological empowerment. And it's a tall order. We've dumbed this sport down, Patrick. It's dumbed down. It's not good. I refer to horses as land dolphins. Come on, there's a lot more to learn here. They have a rich vocabulary, a rich psychology, they have biomechanics, they have physiology. It takes a PhD to be good at this. You need a PhD in horses to maximize horses. You can't take weekend clinic with anybody and go. Seeing results, they were like, whoa, they were kind of deer in the headlights because this horse that couldn't be ridden was being ridden beautifully. And I'm wearing a mic and explaining what's going on. You know, the horse that is bucking everybody else off is going beautifully. And I'm explaining what I'm doing biomechanically, why, and they're all watching this, but I can see they're deer in the headlights. They're just in shock. So I stopped for a moment, and this was total stream of consciousness. This had never happened before. I asked the audience, there's about 100 people there, 150 people there, somewhere in there. How many people here can play a musical instrument well? I mean, well enough that friends and family actually enjoy hearing it. And 3 or 4 hands went up. And I said, well, see, there you go. this is what we need to talk about. Because everybody here loves music, whatever genre you listen to, country, rap, classic, jazz, hip-hop, folk, opera, but pretty much the vast majority of human beings enjoy music. But how many of us can play it? You don't have to be a maestro, but can you just play it well enough that your friends and family actually tap their feet along with you? They enjoy hearing you play. Not many do. And the reason why is because it took time, it took discipline, it took perseverance. It didn't come quick and easy. It didn't. And so we actually admire people who had the self-discipline to put in the due diligence. We have to learn how to tune this instrument and play this instrument. And it is not as simple and easy. I'm not trying to discourage people. I'm actually trying to motivate the genuine seekers. They're here, they're going, yeah, I'm going to double down. I'm more motivated than ever. There is hope that I can go out there and use my body to shape a horse's body to feel so good that it looks at me and goes, wow, you lead the dance well. I feel better when you're controlling me than I do on my own. Here are these things. People say, I need my horse to focus on me. Then I say, well, then you need to be the most interesting thing in the environment. Not the most intimidating thing in the environment, the most interesting thing in the environment.
Yes.
Your being compels their focus with intrigue because you're so good. Not because if you look away from me, you're going to suffer. Right. Or else. And I know people don't want to hear this, the whole pressure release. I mean, come on. Look away, I'll jerk your head off. When you look at me, I'm a nice guy, but when you look away, I'll rip your head off. That's not it. That's bullying. No, that's not it. There is a methodology. There is a practical biomechanical way for horses to adore you. I don't want my horse to just respect me. I want my horse to appreciate me, to value me, to want to be with me. What's his name again? Because of how they feel?
Oh, Tom Curtin. Yeah. How they feel about themselves when they're with you. Yeah.
Yeah. You bring out the best in
I have to apologize. We've taken beyond the time that we had expected, which is kind of the way these broadcasts always go. So I hate to quit, but I want to respect your time also. And I know you said you have some guests there. So let's go into our wrap up here quick. And then I'll let you get back to your guests. So if there was one specific thing then that you'd recommend for riders to focus on as a means of improving their horsemanship, what would that be? Uh-oh, we lost him. Start over with that. So if there was one specific thing, if you could only name one, if there was that one specific thing you could recommend for riders to focus on as a primary means of improving their horsemanship, what would that be?
The nose must be the last thing into the turn, not the first.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. If
you don't use the right rein to pull right at all. To explain that, I know we don't have much time, I'm going to ask your listeners, as silly as this sounds, try this tomorrow. If you're just standing there, just stand still on the ground with your two legs, go to the right. And when you go to the right, you're going to find you stepped right to go right. When you pick up a wheelbarrow and you go to the right, you must step out left to go to the right. Everything that is horizontal, the body of what is horizontal must go out of a turn to turn into a turn. Even your car, when you're driving a car and you turn right, if you're very self-aware, when you're turning the wheel right to go right, your weight drops down into your left buttock. So turning right, your weight sinks left.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who ski, you ski to the left from your right ski and you ski to the right from your left ski. The single biggest issue that human beings have with horses, by deconstructed into one very practical biomechanical concept, human beings step right to go right until they pick up a wheelbarrow or they're pushing a baby carriage or a shopping cart. Then we step left to go right. As soon as we attach ourselves into the horizontal plane, we know we need to go out to turn in. Imagine the wheelbarrow. We filled it up with manure and we took one step and it fell over. If you jammed the carriage wheels in the shopping cart, or you've dumped your load of manure, metaphor intended, pun and analogy intended, it means you stepped into the direction of travel. If you've got a shopping cart or a wheelbarrow and you want to go left and you step left, you're going to jam it up. It's actually going to turn right.
Right.
You don't have to follow this all in your head, but try it. Try it physically. Pick up a wheelbarrow, and you will find that the only way you can circle that, if you try to carry a wheelbarrow in a circle to the left, do 3 circles to the left, do 1 circle to the left, just circle left. Both of your feet are stepping up to the right. So what I'm getting at, even when you're harrowing your arena, look at the harrow tracks in a freshly harrowed arena. If the turn of the harrow tracks is to the right, they swung out to the left to the go right. Mm-hmm. So having said all of that, it's this. For a horse to turn right is not the right hand leading the nose in to the right. The body must be pushed out to the left.
Yes.
To turn a horse left, you must not pull the nose in to the left. You must push the body out to the right. The last thing into the turn must be the nose, not first. Stop pulling the nose in, start pushing the body out.
Here we go. That's a great piece of advice. All right. If you could ride with anyone, past or present, who would it be and why?
I'll give you 2. If it was past, I'd say Reiner Klemke. 5-time Olympic gold medalist, or maybe 3-time. Lawyer, German lawyer. Gio the dressage maestro. More current, I would love to go riding with Mark Todd, eventing in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Mark Todd's an incredible horseman.
Yes.
Current day, I would either say Mark Todd from New Zealand or Charlotte Desjardins from England.
There you go. Yeah. Fantastic. All right. And so we already talked about your personal definition of horsemanship. How about, what's a book that you recently read or are currently reading?
It doesn't directly have anything to do with horses.
Perfect.
I just finished reading Homo Deus. I can't recommend it enough. Homo Deus. It's man, God. Homo Deus. I would say it's the most important book I've read in 20 years.
Really? Wow.
It is all about the future of our species. Where are we going? And of course, there's no definitive answers. It's the author is highly educated in psychology, in biology, in internet technology. He's got multiple PhDs, and he's very astute, very intuitive. And so he is blending, he's connecting the dots between all the emerging sciences. And it's fascinating. It was the most compelling book I think I've read in 20 years.
Wow.
I can't recommend it enough.
Nice. Homo Deus.
Homo Deus.
Homo Deus. I'm going to have to look that one up. All right. And where can folks find you?
Well, 9 months of the year, I pretty much am in a different time zone every 4. Between March and November, it depends. My website, chrisirwin.com.
Perfect.
Please and thank you. My work is all over the United States, all over Canada, all over Europe. Right now I'm in North Carolina, Southern Pines, North Carolina. Tomorrow I fly to Texas. I'm going to go home Monday for some skiing in Alberta, and then next week I'm flying to Amsterdam. So I'm all over.
Nice.
Bring me on my website, please.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so I've been asking you plenty of questions, and something that I like to do at the end of all these interviews is there's a question of the day, and that's basically a question that you get to ask of the audience, and our listening audience is going to chime in with their answer through the comment section, actually, of the. So then the question of the day is a question that you get to ask of our audience, and they get to answer in the comment section of the video. So what would you present as our question of the day?
What brings you peace?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. What brings you peace? All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining me for this. This has been a lot of fun, more fun than I think I could have even expected. And many apologies for this taking as long as it did when I promised you we'd keep it on the shorter side.
Patrick, you hardly need to apologize to me. I'm the one doing all the talking. I've got a thoroughbred mouth. You get me started, I'll just keep going.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. So that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And gang, I want to thank you all for tuning in for episode number 24 of Talking About Horses. I really appreciate that you gave Chris and I your ear and your time, in spite of the fact that we did have a couple little sound glitches in there as we went. Please remember, if you've missed any of this, you can access the full broadcast through Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, or direct from my website at pkhorsemanship.com by clicking the Talking About Horses button under the Education menu. Through whatever platform you're listening, please be sure to give us a rating, a comment, a review, and a share. Your word of mouth is the fuel for this fire. Join us next time, gang. Thanks so much.